Welcome back. It's now time to talk about that all-important conversation that Kayode and Bukola have been highlighting on, which has to do with the resurgence of fuel or queues in our fuel station. What exactly is going on? We already have a lot to deal with as a country, and this is added to the list of things we now have to deal with. Some of us had that experience yesterday. We're being joined on the program by Dr. Gillis Harry. He's the National President of Petrol Product Retail Outlets Association. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
I think the natural place to ask, because we saw that NATO had actually come to say, we will go on strike. And then they had a conversation with the federal government. And then they shelved their strike. So we didn't expect queues. So what happened in between?
Well, I think the queues have been building up for a while. And I recall questions being asked around that to some of my zonal chairmen. And of course, we take time to try to get empirical evidence to answer our questions, because these are of national importance, and we want to be as much as possible correct with some empirical value and evidence. There's not in doubt that queues have, have spiraled in different parts of the country. It simply speaks to the fact that we're having a problem with supply. We need to up our game to get petroleum product delivered so that the stations can be wet and the commuters and everybody else that needs to do their business depending on this source of energy should be able to work. So simply speaking is there's a supply challenge.
And I'm wondering what could be causing supply challenge at this time?
Well, it could be one of so many factors. For instance, you know that there is nobody importing prime motor spirit today. It's only the NNPC that is importing it. And we are not producing in country. Our refineries have not started rolling out any kind of refined hydrocarbon at this time. So if NNPC has some issues, which is possible, as I'm not working on NNPC, so I cannot speak for them, but I will assume, that if there are challenges in getting refined products in, then it will affect the supply chain. And I think that's just what has happened. And I'm sure also, because I am in touch with the top echelon of the retail section of NNPC, I'm sure they are working round the clock to make sure that petroleum products are delivered. Just only a few days ago, 2 vessels have arrived at Port Harcourt, and they are frantically making sure that loadings are effectively and efficiently carried out. So that, I think, by and large, will also, assuage some of these challenges that are coming. But the reality is that we do not get PMS as at when due.
Well, listening to the national president of NATO yesterday on our sister program, he had quite a lot to say. Perhaps that is what had contributed to the supply challenge that you've talked about. He said that their members had begun parking even before they implemented, they didn't implement the strike, by the way, but even before that time, they had begun parking, and, they were protesting what they were owed, perhaps from the time of subsidy up until now, and then they were protesting freight. I'd like you to speak to all of this, particularly despite the assurance that they gave that when they resume work, they're supposed to have resumed immediately, prices would not go up. But we've seen, for instance, my colleague spoke about price adjustment in some filling stations. Maybe you provide some clarifications there, how much they're being owed, what was the nature of the adjustment, and why prices are going up.
Well, it's been a long story, because even our sister organization, the Independent Petroleum Marketers, have been complaining about that. They've written a series of letters, to my knowledge, to the authorities to try to meet up with some outstanding payments, for the then bridging claims that was subsumed into the current NMDPRA. So NATO coming to make that complaint. I was also on channel on the very day when all the series of meetings were holding to look at what exactly the challenges are. Everything that is pertaining to a truck maintenance today has gone extraordinarily high. And we all know the reason is because the dollar is not available, and it's all the time, the naira is losing, to the dollar, which we hope must stop at some time, as we have some of the things that we are thinking that should happen. The cost of diesel also that's being used to run these trucks have also gone up. So it was very clear, that the NATO leadership was barely containing a burning, very, very serious burning national issue that was going to erupt anyway sometime. So I'm very, very appreciative of the maturity and the concern, that the national president of NATO displayed in putting everybody on notice that, look, we're having this challenge and we're going to stop work because most of my members are already parking their trucks and the trucks are not working. So that is a real issue that we need to discuss. Now, if there were solutions that were proffered in the last 40 years, so to say, because we were having assembly plants for steer, for different, heavy trucks in Nigeria. And for some reason, we had all sorts of projections that was coming from World Bank, from IMF, and from different organizations, and which I don't agree in any way, because, we have our country to run, and we cannot be dependent on anybody else sitting down somewhere doing armchair analysis of how our economy should run. They put us through structural adjustment, and we failed and failed and failed. Today, our dollar, which in my time, leaving school in 1977 to go to school in Northrop University, I was paying 72 kobo or so thereabout for $1. And we go to the post office to buy, not even from the bank. You just go to the post office and buy money order, and then you pay your school fees. So we need to get back to the drawing board and know what has gone wrong. So as far as NATO is concerned, I think they've exercised quite a lot of maturity. And of course, the meetings that the president has gone, I have the opportunity to chat with him and to know exactly what's going on and what's happening. And I'm very happy that immediately after the meeting, the proposed strike was called off, and those who are parking their trucks already by the roadside were already getting set to go to the depots to take products to come. So I congratulate.
But very quickly, has their debt been cleared? What they're owed, has it been cleared?
Well, their debts, to my knowledge, there was a figure that was agreed, that is likely going to be made available to offset some of all those debts, that are claimed. Of course, debts cannot be cleared just by a wave of the hand. There's going to be some documentation, there will be processes and different things. If the NATO leadership was selfish, then they would not have allowed their trucks to go to work. But in spite of the challenge, immediately after the meeting, they announced that, look, don't go on any strike. Just manage the process. Let's go through the process and get these payments over to you. Now, will it even be enough? 50 billion naira, would that be enough to service all the debts that are going to put the trucks working? That remains to be seen. But again, I want to congratulate the NATO leadership for being very matured. And that's what I personally had spoken to them, that regardless of what we're doing, our segment is our sector is very, very critical to the growth of the economy. Everybody is crying, food is difficult, living standards have really gone, people are getting angry for nothing today. So if there is something we can do by sacrificial service, we should be able to do. And I think that's what the leadership of NATO has done.
Essentially, reading the room, acknowledging the fact that things are really tough. There was a red flag which you raised earlier on about NNPC being the only importer. Yes. It ought not to be, because they're not the only ones licensed to import at this point. We saw some movement around that last year, but it looks like with the Forex situation, it's now back to the NNPCL. Am I correct?
Exactly. So no other company can easily make imports without availability of dollars. I mean, for instance, PETROAN is just coming back from a journey to discuss with several refineries on how we can even, contribute, to some relief, for the pressure. What are we trying to do? We don't have dollars. We don't. Central bank is not giving. We've applied to central bank several times, even in the previous government, and we were not getting the kind of answers that we needed. So we've been talking to refinery owners and show them the economic values of even having Nigerian naira, to pay for what they import, because they'll be making profit in the Nigerian naira, and they can keep their Nigerian naira here and invest massively in agriculture in different areas. And so we're also doing some kind of economic diplomacy to talk to refinery owners who can work with us, because we are many. We have, in our membership today, I have over 19,000 retail outlets.
So the goal is to do this in naira, because
yes, that's the goal.
Obviously, that's
the goal, and that's really what we're doing.
Right.
So we hope that the government will also come to support us at some point when we have some green light from some of these refinery owners. And right now we have like about 4 offers that are, looking at doing what we are trying to get them to do. Right. Because we believe that if they can invest in cash crops to export, okay, the Nigerian naira will be here, paying for those costs, pay for land, pay for labor, pay for different kinds of things. And then, of course, when export is made, they will get their dollar back, and then they recycle again. Brilliant. So we can be able to. So but we are thinking, we are not just only complaining. We are thinking, and we are trying to also profile solutions.
But while all of that is happening behind the scenes, the average Nigerian is not privy to that. All they want to do is approach a filling station and buy petrol. I'd like you to speak to that Nigerian who is probably stranded right now. The fuel gauge is on empty. There is no petrol in the generating set, and they're on the queue. It even looks like the petrol station is not planning to sell. And we know what happens. Once it's like maybe 30%, they stop selling because they're trying to keep their stock for, the rainy day, as it were. What would you tell them? How soon will this be over? What can they do? Is there a filling station that they can approach and be sure to get petrol? I'd like you to speak to the Nigerians going through this.
Well, at first, I don't agree with you that when our stocks get to 30%, we don't want to sell.
So what percentage?
We want to sell. No, look.
Do you sell everything?
We sell everything.
I beg to differ, Dr.
Sorry, I run filling stations myself, so I'm not just a national president. I have retail outlets that I'm selling, and daily we are working on even a technology services, technology that can help us to monitor ourselves from anywhere we are, to be able to make sure that our staffs are doing the right thing and they are not taking advantage. Most of us are now warming up to technology to be able to get that done. So we know per time what we're having in our retail outlets. So nobody is going to keep 30%. Or even 10% will be a tough call, because you have product in your retail outlet, you don't know what the next policy will be. So why don't you sell it? And for us in PETROAN, our focus is just efficiency in hydrocarbon delivery. When I'm talking about refined hydrocarbon that we're carrying. So I don't agree with you, and I'm being honest to you. And not that I'm going to take 100% of my members on my back and say, oh, I can beat a drum for them. But I can tell you that we are very strict within ourselves. We try to self-regulate. We try to make sure that we get the NMDPRO, the security agencies, to work with us for anybody who is having any infraction on making sure that our simple rules are obeyed. Now, let me answer directly to talk to you. There's a problem. For instance, in my house here in Lekki, where I stay, electricity has been very epileptic. So, of course, we're going to either try to convert our generators to CNG or depend on looking for how to get diesel to run. It was a tough call. Even at my height, we had to probably call like almost 12 or 13, filling stations before something was kept just for me. And that, what was that? Just only 200 liters. And how many hours would that burn if we're going to be able to live our life as comfortable as we want to live? So it is a situation that nobody is removed from it. Because I'm a retail outlet owner does not mean that I have product all the time. And the other retail outlets that have the same challenge will have, sometimes the owners don't have even fuel in their own car because they didn't have fuel that is stored in their vehicle, in their tanks for their own use. We used to do that. I mean, in Port Harcourt, for instance, in my station, when we sell up to about 5%, the stock, we just keep it. One, we don't want our pumps, to go out of gas, so that when there is a new stock, we don't start, finding it difficult to be able to get the product out. And that 5%, maybe sometimes we'll be able to help. I'll have friends, I'll have leaders in society that say, oh, Billy has a filling station somewhere, please go there and do that. And I used to do that for several years for so many people. Now, it's very important for you to know that that culture has not changed. So if there are products somewhere, we are not going to hoard them. Any station that have the PETROAN logo is a certified member of PETROAN and will follow the simple rules that were brought. And in the last 4 years, we have successfully done that to make sure that we contribute to the stability of the energy security, energy infrastructure that is being built. And we're doing quite a lot, that's off the camera, to see what answers and solutions we can bring. I've just told you just a few about helping to make sure that we bring in products that we can pay in Nigerian naira. So it's innovative, and we are getting responses to that. This ordinary Nigerian whose gas is zero, I want to encourage you, don't be scared, don't panic, find alternative ways to get to work and be productive. This situation is not going to be forever. Everybody's hand on deck. I mean, Major Energies, Meman is really working hard. Dapman is also working very hard. PETROAN is working hard. And I also know that IPMAN, that's our closest sister organization, is also working hard to find solutions to all of this. So we are not just leaving it only to NNPC or the government to see what they can do. So I want to encourage Nigerians, please don't panic. Don't buy products from where you see it and then go and store it in your house. It's volatile. It can be very destructive. So just let's calm down and give the situation the best. Listen, I'm speaking from my point of view, my advantage point of view, that the situation will not be too long, before it's assuaged.
I think the concern for Nigerians, which is what I have seen happen over and over,
yes.
And you raised it in passing, that people just get angry over nothing. And I can tell you why. Because when authorities come out to make these statements, sometimes there is no timeline. People want to have a timeline. For instance, the government is saying the economy is going to get better. I understand all the variables of economics to a large extent, but sometimes people want to posit it in time so that they will know how long that distance can be, whether they can bear. So perhaps what Kayode is asking is, since you're in the know, are we going to see this for another 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month? Because this conversation, you're the expert. This is not the first time we're experiencing this. So you have an idea of how this will end. So maybe a direct question, how soon is soon? That's the first question.
How soon is soon enough. Because like I said, just only a few days ago, we received 2 cargoes in Port Harcourt. And as you know, Port Harcourt cargoes in Port Harcourt have a way of spiraling back to the north and the System 2E, which is about 12 states. 2 cargoes is not enough, but that 2 cargoes have already arrived and been discharged. I know that as of today, there is quite a frantic effort by NNPC to make sure that trucks are loaded right now as I'm speaking to you. So as early as 5 o'clock, I was able to touch base with at least the chairman of River State, the zonal chairman, and I'm being briefed, that the situation is going to get better, even for gas, because we try as much as we can to also follow through with our members who are having gas stations, gas retail outlets also. For the soon, I think that if we can get 2 cargos today, at least in the last 3, 4, 5 days, we've got 2 cargos. The NATO strike was almost, going to be a disruption. I'm very happy. That's why I congratulate Nigerians, congratulate the government, the DSS, the police, NNPC, the president, NMDPRO, everybody that has put in their best to make sure that that strike is averted. Because they could have just said, oh, well, it's a conversation. Yeah, and it's not, and it's serious, because people are already, getting set to make sure that they're not going to run into trouble. Of course, nobody is going to run business at a loss, consistently or continually. So what I want to encourage Nigerians is that if we have gotten some cargo coming from Port Harcourt, I'm sure soon Lagos will come, Calabar will come, Ogara will come, and there will be some real, retail outlets that are going to be wet. So there's no need to panic. That is what I'm preaching now. That no need to panic. And there's no need also to be angry. Yes, we know that things are difficult. Things are difficult. There is no doubt about that. Anybody who is trying to paint it differently is being unpatriotic even to Nigeria.
I want to thank you, sir. We're totally out of time. We're totally out of time. Well, I see what you're doing, not trying to give us a specific time, but we want to be hopeful from what you said. Thank you so much for your insight. You're in the know, so we'll take your words for it. And so hopefully in a few days, these queues or weeks will be out of the places where we see them. National President, Petroleum Product Retail Outlet Owners of Nigeria, PETROAN, Dr. Billy Gillis-Harris. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll switch gears now to another part of the conversation. This time, we will zoom in on, of course, part of the economy as well. But we'll do that after this break. Join us again.